Hello, and welcome to what will hopefully be a series of videos of me trying to do some hobby repairs at home and just random broken, mostly electronics equipment to see whether I can get them working. The first one is going to be an Xbox One, which I have here. I bought it online, sight unseen. I'm going to see if I can get it working. It's probably not a good choice for a first repair. It's pretty complicated, but we'll see how we go. It's not meant to be like a seasoned how-to video because other people are doing those much better, but it's also not going to be like a portrait mode unedited video of me just fiddling around. Hopefully it'll be somewhere in between where it's an interesting enough journey to follow along on, gives you a taste of what the experience is like of doing hobby repair, which is something I'd like to promote. So yeah, let's get started and see where we end up. This is the Xbox One that I bought for $30. Was told that it started up. I had an error code. Thought that might be an interesting one to try and figure out. But actually, don't know where the power button even is. Oh, there we go. So it turns on. Could be fine. I might go and test it on a monitor that works. I'm an idiot. I had it in HDMI in instead of HDMI out. So this should help. The other thing that will help, turning it on at the wall. Good sign. We have a system error. It's time for some research. Wow, there was a problem with the update. Let's search for the full code then. Hard reset by holding the power button for 30 seconds. It's definitely not going to be that easy. It'd be fun if it was. Oh, edit. After some research, this requires it to be submitted for repair. Put my hopes up for a second. I'm going to try that. Given that this has pry marks in the back of it and stuff, like 0% chance this is going to work, but still got to do the stupid steps just in case. No, the whole power button thing seems to be complete bollocks. I've been looking at what to do. I've got these offline update files, which may bring it back to life. Seems good. Alright, now is the bit I assume where it's going to try and apply the update, where it's most likely to come crashing down. There we go. Same error. I think no matter what I do software-wise, the system believes that either the hard drive or the optical drive in here is not genuine. So some of Microsoft's digital rights management stuff that stops you replacing parts yourself with the non-official components has effectively bricked this device, and I don't think I'm going to be able to fix that. But I figure since I've got it, we can open it up, have a look, see if it's obviously been tampered with inside. One thing I did see on the listing is that it's got some evidence of it having been opened. In particular, the warranty sticker is long gone. Yeah, there's some pry marks there as well. So we're going to try opening it up and seeing what they actually did. I have not opened one of these up before. I've watched a couple of videos on how to do it, and I'll link those in the description so that in the likely event that I bollocks this up entirely, you'll be able to go and see someone do it properly. Get started. I'm going to get out the spudger, just a plastic tool with a little angled sharp tip on it for getting in the edges and levering clips off and that kind of thing. Tweezers, screwdriver definitely, the other spudger. Never have too many spudgers. I just enjoy saying the word spudger. You're going to hear me say spudger a lot. I think I will need a T9 and a T10 Torx bit. And I believe we start on this. Get our spudger and see if we can't get this end out. It's bendier than I feel like it should be. There we go. That's one piece out. Get my other spudger to hold it so it doesn't click back in. Easy peasy so far. Alright, so now this piece here just slides out, I am told. Not as easy as they made it look, but still too difficult. Oh yeah, there we go. That was easy. And now it gets a little bit more rough. And you can see again there's a pry mark there where somebody else has come before me. So one of these sides goes up and the other one goes down and spread apart at the same time, and you should get the clip coming open. I think the shorter side goes down. There it is. So there's another clip going. You hope that it's like coming open and the clips are just undoing and not snapping, but you never really know until you get it open and assess the damage. But I've got this section unclipped and spudged. So now I'm going to start working my way around. The thing about these plastic spudges is that they don't leave the big pry marks that you get with screwdrivers. There it goes. Okay. I need to try and find the thing I have to disconnect up the front to avoid disaster. You can see what cables we've got going on in there. Here we go. Whoa. Pro tip, don't drop the Xbox. Let's see if I can fit any of my tools in. It's probably not a good noise. Clips. You can see those clips there in the middle. So I lifted a little bit to get that. But instead the front piece is actually separated, which is okay, I think. It was just a clip coming undone. But you can see now there is this grey and green ribbon cable running across the front panel. And that's what connects all the buttons and stuff on the front. And it's joined to this green circuit board. You can just see the top edge of the circuit board. So I need to remove that ribbon cable before I move the front panel any further away from the chassis. Otherwise I may break something. This is where I'm very glad this Xbox is technically already broken. I can actually get the piece free and there's not too much tension on the cable, so hopefully I can get in there a little better. Right, there's where the ribbon's connecting to the board. Definitely a job for using tweezers rather than prying with a screwdriver, I think. Right, ribbon cable freed. We have taken the top off the Xbox. I'm just noticing the rust on this. This is the Wi-Fi card, which does the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, I think. Rusty as heck there. I don't know why. Gross. It's to be in fine condition otherwise. Just unplugging the stuff from that circuit board at the front. And now I think it's time to use these, to get these Torx screws off. The further we get into this, the less I can remember the videos that I watched explaining how to do it, so I'm sure it'll be fine. I do need to remove the Wi-Fi module because there's a screw under it. I have over here a little silicone mat which has little pocket bits. Anyway, it's good for organizing screws as you're taking stuff apart. It is a very useful thing I have found. Oh, that's right. I think it's plugged into like a socket underneath. I'll just try gently levering it upwards without bending it. Yeah. So there was a little, there we go. And there's a little hole in the metal case where that was plugging into. Up to removing all the other screws that are holding it down. So it's the ones labeled C1 through C8. It is kind of fun pretending that I know what I'm talking about when I'm really just repeating stuff I saw in videos made by people who knew what they were talking about. But maybe they were just copying other people who knew what they were talking about. Maybe I'm not the only charlatan. Whoa, that is a long screw. This C8 particularly stiff for some reason. I love this toolkit because it's got so many different tips and spudges and kind of everything you need all in one. But this handle is not the best for getting a lot of torque. It's really just got these 3 little grippy strips here. If you're trying to undo something that's done it really tight, it's a bit of a struggle. It's very much a solvable problem, but I'm just putting up with it instead. By solvable problem, I mean there's a hole through the middle at the top. So I could just stick another screwdriver through that and have heaps of torque. It's just never occurred to me to do it. The magic of thinking out loud. It's making my hands quite sore, so I'm going to test out that little theory. Yep, that's great. All right, hopefully it will now come apart more than before. It is coming apart. I need to unplug the other end of this little connector here. It's away nice and easily. You can see there the underside of that connector has just got this short little cable. Same sort of connector on the other end. Down here in the motherboard is where it was plugged in. And there we go. Another piece removed. And this is where, theoretically, I can inspect whatever damage was done previously. It was rattling when I first got my hands on it, but I haven't heard it lately. I'm wondering if whatever was rattling has gotten wedged or fallen out or something. Just give it a quick... Not that rattle. Yeah. Whoa. All right. That's going to be my first what not to do. Got a little bit too vigorous there. Discovered that the hard drive isn't actually fixed down. It looks like that piece that holds the hard drive is fixed down by the same screws that hold the top on. So it was actually loose. Shaking it was not a good move. I wouldn't have hurt it though. So my initial inspection of this, that's a 500 gig hard drive. I would have thought if someone had tried to do an upgrade on this themselves, they would have put a larger hard drive in, but that is not a larger hard drive. I'm not convinced that they've replaced that. I'll have to research what is supposed to be in there to find out whether or not they would have changed it. And the same with the optical drive. If they've replaced either one of these, that could be causing the error that I'm getting, but I don't know. I was hoping it would be kind of evident from looking at it, but it's not, unfortunately. But in the meantime, I'm trying to figure out what was rattling. I don't know if you heard it in between me trying to throw the hard drive across the room. Looks like it may just come out. Hey, it was way easier than I thought. Clear? We're clear. Okay. Probably should have taken this away before, but it's fine. So I was wrong about the rattling happening in there. Ow, I just destroyed my shoulder. Okay, is this loose? Pretty loose as well. I wonder if maybe I'll take these 2 drives out and just have a look underneath and see what I can see. There's a standard SATA connector plugging the hard drive in. I do want to check now that I see, and these haven't obviously been replaced. I'm wondering whether I'd get the same error if they were just damaged. Because if they're just faulty, that opens up more possibilities for recovering this. Bit dusty, not too dusty. You would think it hasn't been run since it was last opened because they've killed it. So there wouldn't have been much opportunity for dust to build up on the parts, assuming they'd put in like a new hard drive. This one's fairly dusty and like it wouldn't have had time to become dusty. And that really shows up, but there is a decent film of dust on it. So far, nothing is solving this mystery for me, but I am enjoying the process. A couple of clips on the back of the optical drive, but the whole housing comes out, so I probably should have just pulled on it. Seeing if I can tell by the markings on this whether it's genuine, again without having done the research to figure out what a genuine one should look like. Manufactured 2013. It's quite dusty under there. So no sign of whatever was rattling. I'm going to tip it a bit more. There it is. A piece of plastic. Okay, so I think perhaps that comes from there. That makes it too long, it looks like. And the width's not quite right. And this bit of plastic is from somewhere else. Aha. Interesting. So you can see an identical looking piece of plastic. There's a little clip holding the optical drive in. And on the other side, a gap where this little one fits. So the clips that hold the optical drive in, one of them is broken. It most likely happened when somebody was trying to get the drive out. That's the first physical sign that this drive has been replaced, and it is less dusty than the hard drive. Yeah, the SATA connector going into the drive, quite dusty. The drive itself, not very dusty. So I'm leaning towards thinking that this was replaced, which I wouldn't have guessed from the date being 2013 that this was made. That suggests that it was like an OEM drive, not like a recent knockoff that somebody's bought. My two theories are, one, they tried to replace the optical drive, presumably because the old one died. The one that they used wasn't a genuine one or wasn't recognized as a genuine one, and so the console has bricked itself in a desperate attempt to ensure Microsoft gets paid for repairs more. That's one theory. The other theory is that this is the original one that died, and they took the thing apart to try and fix it and failed. So in either case, there's possibly not much I can do to get it working other than getting a proper OEM optical drive that will be accepted by this particular machine, and I have to research how to make sure that's the case, but I would be very surprised if it was worth my time to buy a new optical drive for this. I don't imagine these are cheap if they had a tendency to fail and you have to use a genuine one. And if it's fully working and not like dubiously repaired, and that's the level I'm at right now, is dubious. If it's properly repaired, then you could probably get like $150 for it with the power supply. You know, I wouldn't mind fixing it and giving it to someone, selling it to someone and breaking even. Like, that's a win in my book because I'm here to keep stuff out of landfill, basically. It's like I'm thinking about the return on investment because I need this to be sustainable, not because I want it to be profitable. So far I'm doing a whole lot of spending money and not a whole lot of fixing things or selling things. So I've solved the mystery of the rattling. I have a theory as to why the machine's not working. I think the next step is for me to do some research into this drive to try and figure out if this was the original that's broken or if it's a replacement that wasn't accepted. And in either scenario, can I do anything about that? I'm tempted to open this up because I know you can buy like just the laser module, which I think is the part that breaks, and that may have been what was done. They may have opened this up and installed the laser module. I'm just noticing there's 4 screws fixing the bottom plate on this optical drive, and 2 of them are covered by this padding. So there's no adhesive on that corner. This one is stuck down, but not very much. I might try and open it up. That's got me intrigued enough. I don't think that piece of broken plastic could have been affecting the actual core issue. I was just making the rattle, which I was curious about. Being plastic, it wouldn't short anything out inside the case. Like, it's not particularly structural. Like, it wouldn't affect the functioning of the drive at all. So I think it was just a inconsequential issue. Definitely haven't watched an instructional video on how to do this. I'm just winging it. Okay, initial impression on seeing the inside of this looks fine. I was kind of hoping there'd be like a loose cable or some evidence of damage, but And it all looks kind of fine. Might be a fingerprint on the handle you can use to pull the ribbon out. Again, could happen at the factory. I think people assembling this in a factory setting tend to wear gloves. So that is another slight hint that it's been worked on. I know this drive's not dead because when I power on the console, I can hear it spinning up. And it does sound weirdly loud and unhealthy when it spins up, but I don't know what's normal for an Xbox. I don't think they have a reputation for being quiet, so it may just be the normal drive noise. Yeah, I don't want to disassemble this any further because it's very likely that I would just destroy it, but there's a reasonable chance that this was what they were trying to repair. And they made some changes to this, and for whatever reason, the console hasn't accepted it. That doesn't change the outcome that I said a few minutes ago. I'm going to try and figure out, based on the error and what I've seen here, whether it was optical drive failure or optical drive replacement not accepted, and what my options are in either of those scenarios. There's another day and I'm wearing the same shirt again to make it seem like it's the same day. So I've done some more research off camera and concluded that basically the drive is not being detected as genuine and there is nothing whatsoever that I can do about it. So the reason for this, I think, terrible design decision is anti-piracy stuff. The logic is that if anyone can mess with the software inside the optical drive, then they can make it read pirated discs. And then Microsoft and the game publishers don't get all of their money because people will pirate the game sometimes. So that's not acceptable to them. So the firmware has a secret key and it's tied to the key on the motherboard. And if any other circuitry is in this other than the one with the right key, then it's like, oh, you destroyed the device. It will not work anymore at all. So what that means is a lot of perfectly functional Xboxes going to e-waste, which sucks. I'm hoping that will change soon. I mean, this is already not a current gen device, and that's been the case for a fair while. But there's still no suggestion that they're going to actually make that any less strict, which would be a real shame. Obviously, they make more money by putting more of these in landfill so that they can get people to buy more new consoles, which is a bit of a simplistic view on it because a lot of the time the people who would be buying from the secondhand market wouldn't be buying from brand new. So they have incentives to do this even though it sucks and is really wasteful. No one, to my knowledge, from what I can see in the public discussions about it, has managed to crack the security on this device. So there's no jailbreak for the Xbox One. It's not been broken, which means there's nothing I can do about the fact that it's rejecting this drive, which is why I think it's bricked. I can't do anything about it. So that sucks. Right to repair as a movement is kind of picking up momentum now, I think, partly because people are getting more aware of how much e-waste we are generating out of products like this and how grossly unsustainable it is. I think it's also COVID has meant that people are a bit more aware of how fragile our supply chains are and the fact that sometimes you just can't buy stuff anymore. And that makes people a bit more interested in, like, can I fix this if it breaks? So with that change happening, assuming it continues, then there should be more pressure on them to, at least for the non-current consoles, compromise on that policy, because it is, I think, pretty disgraceful. But we'll see. I might hang on to this in the hopes that that happens. There are a couple of things that I want to try before I shelve this. One is I want to try and start it up with the hard drive put back in and the optical drive actually not connected at all. Because why the hell would it not work in that mode? I couldn't find anyone online talking about whether that works. I assume it's not going to work, otherwise everyone would have been talking about it because it's a good workaround for when your optical drive dies. The new Xboxes have a digital-only version because who needs discs anymore? So it makes perfect sense for this to operate like that if there's a problem with the drive. And like, sure, the anti-piracy thing means you don't want to have any kind of optical drive in there that isn't the exact correct drive. Again, that sucks, but fine. But why not run with it out? Like, why is it a piracy risk to run the console without an optical drive? That makes no sense to me. I'm sure I would have found evidence of that online. I did not, but I'm going to try it just for the sake of it. So I'm going to reassemble this. I think I'll put the optical drive back in and just won't plug it in. There's no point plugging it in anyway. Put it all back in, start it up and see what happens. If I just rest this on top without doing the clips up, that is good enough for me. Yeah, move it over to the other side and try starting it up with no disk drive whatsoever. Let's see if it tells me that I've done a piracy or whatever. Oh, it's so much quieter. And why would you have an optical drive? Yeah, pretty much what I expected. I think given that the error code I'm seeing is E100, and that means a hardware issue, it doesn't like that the optical drive's not connected. And I've contacted the seller who I got this from and asked if they could try and find out what happened to the original optical drive, but the answer was, nah, I just buy and sell, sorry about it. It's been interesting. I have learned about Xboxes, I have learned about Microsoft. Hopefully there'll be enough public pressure for them to step up the game. Right, I've got the front panel ribbon precariously connected and I haven't put the screws in the top of the metal bit. So we're going to try and see what we can do. Pro tip, before you attempt to reseal all of the clips, remove your spudger. Alright, that is now more flush. There's some very strained and unhappy plastic in there and potentially a little bit of snapped off plastic, but I don't think so, there's no rattling. So, Xbox One, bricked by DRM, full of very serviceable computer components that are going to gather dust until they get sent to e-waste or until Microsoft decides to stop being such. Thank you for watching.